rights, their own ideals, following their own heart. This is an unusual and, in my opinion, a very distressing development in Canada today. I'd like to introduce our next speaker to you, and that is Dr. Betty Ann Story. Dr. Story has been a family doctor in Brantford, Ontario since 2005. Prior to attending medical school at Dalhousie University in Halifax, she obtained a PhD in synthetic organic chemistry. She worked for 3 years as an organic chemistry lab instructor. She graduated from medical school in 1999. She did a family medicine residency at the University of Western Ontario. Dr. Story is one of the 5 physician applicants in the court application regarding conscience rights and the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Ontario policies, which are entitled Physician Obligations and Human Rights and Medical Assistance in Dying. Please welcome Dr. Betty Ann Story.
Very tall. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to thank you, Mr. Woodworth, for inviting me to speak today, this International Conscientious Objector Day. It's very hard for me to do this speech about conscientious objection and medical assistance in death because the topic hits too close to home and affects me deeply. And I'm sorry, I'm not a public speaker either. For me, medical assistance in death is inconsistent with the Hippocratic oath I swore after graduation from medical school. It goes against everything for which I went to medical school and forces me to violate my deeply held religious and moral beliefs. I know people are conscientious objectors for a variety of reasons. This little talk for you is my attempt to portray in more detail my reasons and to summarize the journey in life that brought me to this point in time. You may ask, what motivated me to go into medicine? Well, the answer is actually found in why I did not go into medicine initially. But I pursued a career in chemistry, the one that Mr. Woodworth alluded to. You see, I was born and brought up in India, and I saw suffering on a scale there that beggars description, and there were many things that terrified me, even though I was sheltered. I came to Toronto to attend the University of Toronto and study the sciences. My classmates and friends were applying to medicine, but I absolutely refused to consider medicine. A crucial reason was my fear that if I became a doctor, might accidentally harm or even kill one of my patients. I couldn't do it. So I studied chemistry and eventually completed the PhD in synthetic organic chemistry, a field from which many of my colleagues went to work for drug companies. Well, I instead went to teach undergraduate organic chemistry labs. I in fact taught the pre-medical organic chemistry labs, and we had various experiments that were relevant to medicine. So one day one of my students challenged me to consider medicine. About the same time, I was also given a book called Pain, The Gift Nobody Wants by Dr. Paul Brand and Philip Yancey. Now, Dr. Paul Brand was born and brought up in India, and he was a medical doctor working in the US and India with leprosy patients. He didn't want to go into medicine either, but he changed his mind. He said in his book that he regarded pain as one of the most remarkable design features of the human body, and if he could choose one gift for his leprosy patients, it would be the gift of pain. He also quoted Marcel Proust, who said, "Illness is the doctor to whom we pay the most heed. To kindness, to knowledge, we make promises only. Pain, we obey." He further said that good medicine treats an individual, not just a disease, which is the motto of Hippocrates way back in the early days of medicine. We can learn to cope with pain. We can even triumph in the pain. What Dr. Brand's book said resonated with my personal beliefs, because I'm part of the Judeo-Christian tradition and believe that life and death are in God's hands. As I read accounts of Jesus Christ's life and death, I was and am struck by his emphasis on life, abundant life, life after death, and his great compassion for the sick and the suffering. I wanted to follow in his footsteps and do what I could to bring healing and wholeness to my patients. So in the end, the challenge to consider medicine, Dr. Paul Brand's book, and my religious beliefs led me into medicine. I, as you heard, attended Dalhousie University Medical School. I wanted to help my patients as individuals. I wanted to help them find hope in the midst of suffering while providing the very best medical care that I could. Upon graduation, a small group of us took the Hippocratic Oath, in addition to a more modern oath that the whole class took. I eventually finished family medicine, worked 2 years here in Kitchener, and then moved on to Brantford. I have patients from many different backgrounds and beliefs and various different stages of life and all sorts of different medical problems. For all, I have done my best to treat them as individuals, not just as their diseases or their illnesses. I, of course, properly try to manage those, but I want to see my patients flourish as individuals. I try to treat all with honesty and integrity in a trustworthy manner and have done my best to comply with the CPSO policies up until the CPSO insisted on an effective referral irregardless of personal beliefs and morals. In fact, when medical assistance in dying became legal, it was devastating for me because, as you could probably get from what I've said already, medical assistance in death goes against everything I have stood for as a physician and as a person. It forces me to violate not only the Hippocratic Oath I took, but also breaks with the medical tradition that has spanned almost 2,500 years. It forces me to violate deeply held religious and moral beliefs about the sanctity of life, about hope for the future, about God's ability to bring healing and good out of evil. Clearly, I cannot provide assisted death, but also I cannot refer, because for me, a referral is a request to somebody to do something I cannot do myself. Thus, it makes me a participant in an act, so I cannot refer either. I've had many discussions with my patients about the legal right of assisted death, and many of my patients ensure that they know where I stand and they agree with me. They may not agree that, how should I put it? Some of them do want assisted death, but they agree that I should not be forced to provide it. Now, as we heard earlier, there are developments occurring about setting up a care coordination service here in Ontario so patients, their families, or their friends can directly access assisted death. But that does not get around the CPSO policies of effective referral. Those are still in force. Thus, it remains a fact that if a patient requests me to provide them with assisted death or a referral for the same, I can certainly discuss their concerns and what their request means, but according to the CPSO policies, I must provide an effective referral to my patients. I have two options. I either do the referral for the patient, which means that my personal integrity is destroyed, and I have betrayed the trust not only of that patient, but of the rest of my patients, because I have broken my word to them. How could any patient trust me in the future if I violate my oath and my deeply held beliefs? Or I can not do that referral and face the disciplinary action by the CPSO. That can range from a reprimand to the loss of my license to practice medicine here in Ontario. I unhesitatingly choose the disciplinary proceedings. I will not refer. For me at present also, the option of leaving the province and abandoning my patients is completely unacceptable. It breaks the trusting relationship many have developed with me. I'm not leaving. Not till I'm forced to. You've heard the other speakers allude to the two other avenues that are being explored to help this most untenable and unfortunate situation that we face here in Ontario. One is through the court challenge of the CPSO policies, and the other is through the Ontario provincial legislature. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the court challenge. This is a challenge to the CPSO policies. When I heard about this potential challenge of the CPSO policies, I volunteered as one of the applicants because I felt strongly that the policies were violating my charter rights to freedom of religion and freedom of conscience. I also felt that the policies would potentially worsen patient access to care and could force physicians to leave the province. In fact, I know people who are planning to leave because of these policies. Thus far in the court case, various affidavits have been submitted, cross-examinations have occurred, and the case will be heard next month. We'll see what happens. On the other hand, there is the provincial legislation which has been started. Thankfully, there are many others in the province who agree that healthcare workers should be permitted freedom of conscience with regard to assisted death. After all, as you have heard, Ontario is the only jurisdiction in the world requiring participation in assisted death by doing it or by providing an effective referral. Thankfully, Mr. Jeff Urick has proposed a private member's bill protecting conscience rights. That is to be debated this Thursday here in Toronto, and I request that people support Bill 129. You can phone your MPPs and tell them that you support this bill. In conclusion, I hope that the foregoing has helped you understand a little bit better why I am opposed to participating in medical assistance in death. There is no need for participation or for an effective referral if patients can self-refer. Assisted death is inconsistent with the Hippocratic tradition of medicine. It's also inconsistent with my personal beliefs. Because I wish to practice medicine with integrity, consistent with the promotion of healing, life, hope, and purpose, despite or even in the midst of pain and suffering, I am part of the court action against the CPSO policies of effective referral. I am thus a conscientious objector.